Hi, I'm Tracy Atfield, and I'm on the North Point Partner team. Have you ever wondered, how do you really use an online groups conference? Like, what does that even look like for you, your staff, or your group leaders? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to not only just talk about it, but we're going to actually show you one of the Regroup videos and show you how you could use it to train your group leaders. Well, today I'd like to introduce you to our two guests that we have with us. We have Cliff and Raul, and Cliff is Cliff Atfield, and if you noticed, he does have the same last name as me, and he is my husband, so spoiler alert there. But Cliff is on the North Point Partner team as well, and he has been working a lot on Regroup, and Cliff has a lot of experience as he's worked at several of our campuses in the groups area and adult ministries. And we also have Raul Aguilar with us, and Raul is out at Gwinnett Church, and he leads the adult ministry team there. So welcome, guys. We're so glad that you're here and joining us today. So Cliff, I would love to just start with you. What is Regroup Conference? We keep talking about it, but what exactly is it?
Yeah, Regroup is a conference all about small groups and for all ages. So, there's a lot of content in there for adults, but we also have groups content in there for children's groups as well as for student groups. And it's going to be from July 13th through July 26th. But if you register for the $20 registration fee, you'll actually also get access to the content for 2 additional weeks. So you'll actually get access to all the material from July 13th until August 11th.
Thanks, Cliff, for sharing that about why or what Regroup actually is. But what I'd love to know now is why do we even have Regroup? North Point is a church of small groups. We're not just a church that has small groups on the side, but we really believe in the power of community. And we always are learning and always trying new things with our groups. So just because we have a way of doing it doesn't mean it is the way. So kind of how or why do we think that we have the ability to kind of speak into the group's world?
Yeah, no, I think, you just hit a very important part. We've got some things that we believe that work, but we are constantly a church and a model that is in progress as well. And so the big thing for us is we just want to share what we have learned. The hope of that is maybe you'll pick up some things from us. Maybe you'll be able to do some things or you'll want to do some things that we do. But if anything, we hope that it makes you just reflect also, or helps you reflect also on what you do and to make your model for small groups better as well. So again, our hope in it is just to share what we have learned and what we are currently learning with everyone in the hopes that everyone gets better.
All right, well, thanks for sharing that, Cliff. One thing I also love about this Regroup in particular is that we are going to have over 20 of our partner churches are doing videos as well. And so we're going to have more kind of voices speaking into the context of, hey, how can you do groups when you're in a rural context or when you're in an urban context or when you have to start or stop a ministry and different things like that. So I'm excited to have their voice in there as well. Well, Raul, this year, as we've mentioned, we kind of switched to a digital conference, which is new to us because we've typically had it at North Point. So share with us a little bit about the history and how we decided to move to a digital conference.
Yeah, so traditionally it's been an in-person conference at North Point in Atlanta, Georgia, every other year. And usually we have keynotes, all these breakouts, and these breakouts are about an hour and 15 minutes each, and we have some Q&As for the same time amount. But what we realized is we kept hearing that people were like, I wish I could bring my whole team. I wish my whole staff could come, but it's just so expensive with the travel and the lodging and the food and all the craziness, right? Trying to get people in the coordination. So we said, you know what, back in December 19th, pre-COVID, ironically, we decided to move into a digital conference to make it more accessible for everyone. And that's why I'm so super excited about it, because that we can solve that problem for so many people, as you've already been saying in the chat. And so the goal of it is really just to set you all up, your church leaders, and your group leaders and your volunteers to succeed in this next season of groups, especially as we're trying to figure out all this new way of doing ministry, right? And through a digital age. And we're all just trying to figure all this out together. So I hope as we've learned from this, you can learn from us and we can learn from you throughout this whole conversation.
Thanks, Raul, for sharing that history of Regroup. Well, as we think about the digital regroup that we're going to have, it's going to have most of the same elements as what we would do if we were having an in-person conference. So similar to what we've done in the past, we had keynotes and we had live Q&As. In the past, we had breakouts, and now we're going to have on-demand videos, and we're going to be able to have more videos just because of being able to do it digitally versus in person. So that's going to be great. So Cliff, could you share with us a little bit about the keynotes? I'd love to hear who is going to be speaking, and then also who are those keynotes really for? Like, who should be listening to those?
Yeah, I mean, the keynotes are aimed at all of us that are out there, whether we are church leaders and staff members, to key leaders within the volunteer ranks of our church, to group leaders, and even I think some just regular church attendees would benefit from these too. But all the information about our keynotes that I'm about to share can be found at regroup.org/keynotes. So regroup.org/keynotes. But to kick off our conference, we're really excited about this. So on July 13th at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Jeff Henderson is going to kick us off, and he's going to be talking about vision casting for small groups. If you've ever heard Jeff speak, he is one of the best vision casters I've ever heard in my life. And he's not only going to tell us how to do that, but he's going to help equip all of the attendees to kind of go, here's the process that he goes through to understand how to do that better. So hopefully in arming us in how to do that. Next on that next Thursday, Holly Goddard will be talking to us about our own spiritual development and the power of what we know about how we fill ourselves up in order to better serve the people that we get a chance to serve. So that's really important, and we're super excited about that. Then on the following Monday, Samer Masad is going to be talking to us about the power of belonging and what just that feeling of belonging means to us as a church and as a community, and how that makes its way all the way into the big parts of our church down into small groups. And he's also going to be talking about how the next generation in front of us has a lot to share with us and a lot to teach us about what belonging looks like and how to make that more a part of your church and your ministry. And then finally, on the very last Thursday, Carrie Newhoff is going to be talking to us about a topic that is probably constantly in front of us. The longer and longer you're in ministry, the more and more this becomes obvious to you. But burnout is probably only a few steps away from where many of us are. And the part of the trick of the whole thing is no one ever actually sees it coming before it happens. And so what Carrie's going to be talking to us about is how can we better see that coming, and then also what we can do as church leaders and volunteers and really wherever you are in life. If you do encounter that, what can you do about it, and how do you get to a place where you become more healthy? So we're really excited about those. And again, all that information is on regroup.org/keynotes.
Thanks for sharing about the keynotes. Okay, so Brian Stark had a question, and he asked if he can't watch the Q&As and the keynotes live, will they be available to watch later on the Regroup platform?
Yep. And so they will all air at the times that are noted on the website, but after they air, they will become on-demand content too, that people will be able to experience, from the time that they do air all the way till the end of that conference and to the end of the 2 weeks on August 11th.
Okay, so that's great to know that the keynotes and the live Q&As will be available to watch at a later time. So thanks for answering that question from Brian. Okay, so speaking of live, Raul, tell us, what exactly do we mean by live Q&A? How does that work at a conference?
I know, right? First of all, I'm excited to hear some of those keynotes, especially Jeff, man, being the pastor here, I can't get enough of him, even though I work here. It's so exciting. So for our Q&As, they're going to be on the Tuesdays and Wednesdays of the 2 weeks of Regroup Conference. And here's the deal. I'm going to give you the topics, but there's no description because really they're based on your questions. So hopefully you guys ask questions. I mean, just by these topics, they're like leader recruitment and training is one of them. Equipping leaders virtually. Oh, I want to know how to do that. I'm going to be on that Q&A. Staff leadership. Connecting people into community. These titles are super helpful, but they're going to be geared, and the content's going to be geared based on your questions. And the reason they're live is you're going to have a chance to ask those questions, and then people are going to respond to them live. And yes, they will be available later.
Raul, thanks for sharing about the live Q&As. And yes, it is so important that you, watching Regroup Conference, that you submit your questions for those particular live Q&As, because you get to drive the content of those conversations. And trust me, you don't want to see us sitting on a stage just looking at each other, because that would not be any fun. So we need your questions, and we really want to answer them. So we want to make this what you want it to be for those live Q&As. So as we think about the on-demand videos, the great thing about doing a digital conference is we can have more content, because when you attend a conference in person, you can only attend so many breakouts, right? And you can only be in one place at a time. Whereas with a digital conference, you can watch the videos at different times of the day when it's convenient for you, along with having team discussions and things like that around it for your team, your staff teams, or your leaders. So Cliff, could you tell us a little bit more about the on-demand videos?
Sure. And actually, to do that, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to take you actually into the in-process platform that we're actually building as we speak. So let's go into that. So all of you should be seeing my browser at the moment. And this is, like I said, if you register for the conference, this will be part of the platform that you actually jump into. What you see on your screen right now, though, is like, since I said it's in process, all of these little thumbnails that you see right here will be replaced by thumbnails for the actual videos that we do load. Right now, these are just placeholders as all the material comes out of editing. But the categories, so we have group strategies that work. We have recruiting small group leaders, leading your groups ministry, leader training. This is training that we've actually focused on, and it's meant directly for group leaders. And so these are videos, not that you'd take in as staff, you can, but these are videos that you could play directly for leaders if you were to host your own training event and work through that. We've got helping people take steps towards community. We have stuff on, we have material on children's groups and student groups and caring for people within groups, both within groups and people just at large in your church. We have small group curriculum and group leadership. But if we actually dive into one of these, if we go into that leader training section, you'll see a little bit of an overview of what that particular channel or category has in store for it. And then again, you'll see all the collections. So it's not what you just saw on the screen before, but there's plenty more videos in here for each of these categories. And we're actually going to dive in and look at one of them that Raul is actually going to take us into in a little bit. So this is the initial training for our group leaders. But when you go into that, you actually see the video that you'd be watching, but then there's an about section that tells you a little bit more about the video and how to use the video. And then there's also a resources section. This is really important because this resource section has downloads in it. And there are literally downloads and questions for every single video in this platform so that you can not only watch the questions, but not watch the videos, but we give you questions to then go process the content so that you can make it usable for your ministry. And so these downloads are also a couple of the downloads that we're going to be sharing with you through the chat feature, through the links in there. So you'll be able to download this stuff actually right now as Raul is going to go through the material in a little bit.
Okay, that's awesome. And I just saw a question come in real quick of, will each of the categories, this is from Aaron Cordova, will each of the categories of videos all be released on July 13th, or will they be released daily by category?
Yep, they're all the categories that I just showed you on that screen, all of that is going to be released July 13th. So you'll have all of that at your disposal. The only thing that comes over time are the keynotes and the Q&As, but everything else is available all the way from July 13th until August 11th.
Okay, that's awesome. And then we also had a question from David about, are we able to download the videos?
Yeah, you'll actually play this. This is going to work exactly like Netflix. So what you'll actually do is you'll actually play these videos from the platform itself to use with your audience.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for just that clarity. And thanks, guys, for asking those questions. Appreciate it. Okay, so let's get really practical. I mean, Cliff just showed you kind of what the tool is going to look like. So it's, I don't know about you, but it's always so much easier for me when I actually see it. Now I'm like, oh, I totally get how I could do this now. So hopefully that's helpful for you as well. But I know a question that we're all asking right now is, how do I train my leaders? How do I train new leaders this season? And I mean, we feel like we've adapted and pivoted and done all that kind of stuff. And I feel like I've said pivot so many times recently, but we're still doing it. And so as we think about training new leaders this season, how are we going to be doing that, Raul? And can you show us how you're going to be training your leaders out at Gwinnett Church?
Yeah, I mean, we were trying to figure out what are we doing in this new season? How are we going to train leaders digitally, in person? What do we do? Can we do it in person? So what I'm about to show you and go through is I want to take you through the first part of our initial new leader training. This is the same training that we're planning on using come August with our new leaders. There's about 3 videos in the total of this training. They're around 6 minutes long, and they come with discussion questions and a guide, which I think we're going to drop that in the chat, right? The actual guide. So you guys are going to get pre-beta access. I don't know if it's pre-beta, beta access, whatever. You're going to get access to that right now so that you can follow along with what I'm about to do. And so I'm going to model this for you. I'm going to model what it looks like. And this training is based on the need for our leaders to know what they need to start their group. So it's not the full training, because what we found is leaders need just-in-time training. I need just-in-time training. I forget everything I learned within 30 seconds. I'm so ADD, squirrel. But for our leaders, we're going to give them the training to start their group well and to lead through the first part, and then we would do the rest of the training another time, digitally or in person. And so you can do this, like I said, in person or digitally. We're using Zoom to do this training. And what I love about Zoom is you can do it a webinar style. You can do it like this, which is a webinar style, or you can do it with everybody talking and conversing. When we do this training digitally or in person, by the way, we're going to try and do it in person and record it so we can send it out digitally or have digital as a backup. But when we do it digitally, it's more of a conversation. So everybody it's more of a video chat versus a webinar style. So here's how I would do it. To set up would be, man, hey, awesome leaders. So glad that you guys are here today. And thanks so much for taking the time. I know, a little cheesy, but I'm role playing here, guys. Go with me. So glad you took the time to be here. We want to honor your time. So we're going to be here for about an hour today just to go through this initial leader training that's going to set you up to feel confident that you can start your group well, have a great conversation as you lead people to connect relationally so they grow spiritually. And so today we're going to watch a couple videos. We're going to be together for about an hour, like I said. And here's the thing. As you go through this training, I want you leaders to really think about what can I take to have the best group experience possible, not just for the people in the group, but also for me, so we have fun doing it. And so we're going to jump into the first video. It's about 6.5 minutes, and it talks about what a great group looks like. So Cliff, you're actually going to play the video for us now so we can see what it is. So Cliff, go ahead and jump into that.
Yep. And as I was saying before, this is actually the platform that you'll get log-on credentials to on the day before the conference. And you would just literally come into this video and play them from here. And you can screen share if you're doing this online, or you do it in person and show it up on a screen. But you just play the video from here and hit full screen and go on from there.
Every year, I get to lead a team who coaches hundreds of leaders who are in your shoes, who are starting a group or restarting a group. And so today, if you're leaning in to begin a group for the first time or the first time in a while, thank you so much for showing up and for leaning in. For the last 16 years, I have also been in your shoes of leading a group and have wondered some of the questions maybe you're wondering, like, is anybody going to show up? Or is this going to be worth people's time? Maybe you've wondered if you have what it takes. Maybe you're wondering if people are going to connect. Or maybe you're concerned that they might form a clique, or if they're going to click at all. Maybe you're worried that the conversation might stall out, or maybe that the conversation might get heated. For all of us who are leaders, we wrestle with this idea, or at least I do, that I want my group to be great. And my guess is that you want your group to be great. You want your group to be great, not for you. You want your group to be great for them. You want group to be worth it, for it to be worth the drive across town, or to clean up that living room, or to log onto Zoom and be able to take the time to connect relationally. You want it to be worth it so that people are growing spiritually, are making friends, are making this experience worth the time and investment. So what I want to do over the next couple of videos is share ideas that we've learned from leaders about what makes group great. What makes a great group? Well, let's start with this. What is the role of a small group leader? At the end of the day, what is it that you as a small group leader do? And what is it that you are responsible for? Well, here's how we think about that. Here's your role as a small group leader: to provide an environment where people can pursue authentic community and spiritual growth. Authentic community and spiritual growth. Let me break that down a little bit. Authentic community is being real as we grow and supporting others as they grow. It's being real. It's being the real you. Let me tell you this, people want to connect with the real you, not with the ideal you. The pressure is off for you to be perfect, for you to have all the answers, for you to have it all together. Not only is God's grace going to get to move through you and your imperfections and you don't have it all together yet, but you want your community to lean in and show the real them so that real, authentic community can happen. All right, so we have authentic community, and next is spiritual growth. Here's what spiritual growth is. It's a growing faith in God expressed by growing love for God and others. Spiritual growth is not the same thing as just learning more. No, it's taking what we're learning and applying it specifically to being more loving towards other people. So here's where we're going: authentic community, spiritual growth, and we're going to do that by creating consistent environments. So over the next 3 videos, what I'm going to do is share 3 things that you're going to do in each of your group meetings. Those things are, you're going to connect, learn, and apply. You'll connect, learn, and apply. And in this first video, I'm going to talk specifically about how we connect. Connecting often starts in the kitchen where you're eating snacks, where you're talking about your day. It's like the off-ramp from somebody's busy day at work or at home where they can be more fully present with the group. It's a transition. And it's so important because this is where we build trusting relationships. This is where we learn to get to know each other on a different level. It's where we begin to get ourselves ready to be able to talk about what we're learning in group. Now, early on, this is going to take a little bit more work and intentionality. I recommend that you ask a simple question to get things started. Maybe it's as simple as what was a high point and low point of your week, or maybe it's something more emotive or memorable, like share a memory of the town that you grew up in, or get people laughing and talking about failed first dates or blind dates or wedding mistakes. Ask people to bring out their high school yearbook and get folks just laughing and talking and connecting. And here's what's going to happen is when you do that, people will begin to open up emotionally. And when we open up emotionally, we're more likely to be open intellectually. So connecting is so important, and you can start that really well by letting your group members know what they can expect. Send them a text and tell them what question you're going to ask, or send them an email to let them know what group is going to look like. And then connect. Prioritize relationships. Take a few minutes and make sure you're leaning in together. One more best practice tip about connecting, and that is get out of the circle. You've probably been talking about the importance of getting out of a row and into a circle, and one way that you can really connect is get out of the circle. Go explore a new restaurant together. Go do an activity together. Have a service project together. And you'll learn more about the people in your group by being shoulder to shoulder than sometimes you'll learn by always sitting in a circle. The first thing that we do in every group is we connect. If you're kind of type A like me and you're tempted to rush past this part because you're ready to get to the meat, ready to get to the good stuff, let me encourage you, your group is so much better if you prioritize connecting. Let me ask you this question. What can we do to create environments where people feel like they belong? That's the target on the wall for us as leaders. Think about that question, and we'll come back the next 2 videos to talk about how we learn together and apply together.
So that was the first video that we're going to show at our training that you'll have access to. Coming out of that video, what I would say to my leaders is, okay, have you ever been a part of a group where you felt like you belonged? What did that feel like? What was that? And I would try to bring out the feelings so that those leaders would know that's the feeling I'm trying to get, so that people in the group feel engaged. They feel like I'm connected to this group. I feel like I'm a part. Because what we found is people join groups for community, right? They join groups for people to get to know them and to feel like they belong, especially in churches where it can become a couple hundred people and you don't know where to do, or even smaller churches where you don't know everybody. A small group is where you feel like family sometimes. And so that's a great way. You have some other questions in your guide And again, we gave you plenty of questions. We're not expecting you to use all those questions. In a training that's in person, I might do 1 or 2 questions. In a Zoom call like this or digital, I probably do 1 before moving to the connect phase. And so now that I've talked about what it's like to belong in a group and created that feeling, I want to move to how important connection is. And I'd ask, hey, what are some ways you group leaders have used to help your groups connect as they're coming in, especially as your group is starting where people don't know each other? And I'll get a popcorn of ideas, and I'll make sure I mention some of the ideas that are in your guide, which are like story cards. Story cards are phenomenal, by the way, just for anybody to have. They're these cards that are just images, and I ask questions like, I don't know, what was your week like? Pick a card that describes your week, and that really creates a good conversation. You can also have some other questions that you don't need cards to use, like the Questions in a Box app is a great app that helps with that. You could Google Would You Rather questions. Those are hilarious, especially in married groups when the spouses are different. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. One of my favorite questions that I've been recently asking is, if you could only live with 3 apps on your phone, what would they be? I have never seen a group have such discussion about. I asked it on my group last week, and I could not get them to shut up. I was like, okay, we need to move to the learn phase. It was hilarious. So there's many ideas in your doc that you could use, like Bo mentioned in the video. You could just do a check-in. Something I've been doing on Zoom lately is on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is I feel terrible and 10 is I feel awesome. Hold up your fingers on your Zoom, on your video call, and let us know how you're feeling. And then we'll go through and say, why did you pick a 7? Why did you pick a 1? And if it's a 1, that's a care situation. Whole nother webinar for that one. And one last thing on connecting that I try and tell my leaders is we did a digital scavenger hunt with our group, and it was hilarious and so much fun and took about 15 minutes. And that was the first thing we did on a Zoom call because it really helped people start talking and feeling comfortable with a video chat. Anyways, that's the connect phase. That's what I would do with my leader training. And then I would move to showing the learn video. And then same process, going through the guide with here's what some ideas for helping learn. Here's some study guides. And then I would move to the apply phase. Same thing, show the video and then ask questions. And then finally, for the training to finish, I would say, let's talk about what your group looks like logistically. What are some meeting logistics? What does a weekly agenda look like? How often should you meet? What does in between meetings communication looks like? And then what are some studies you should do? So this training could be anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. Usually digitally, I try and stay on the 60-minute mark. You can go 90 minutes, but try and keep it to 60 minutes. If it's in person, man, we could do anywhere from 90 minutes to 3 hours sometimes based on how you run it.
Okay, 3 hours. That sounds a little long, but
Yeah,
hey, I trust you, Raul, because you're a lot of fun. So I'm sure it would be awesome. But okay, so let's think if we were doing a 60-minute digital training event, and like you just talked about some awesome fun ideas, would you use those same ideas in a digital training event to create fun for your leaders? Or like how else could you create fun in that type of way for as you want to celebrate your leaders and be with them?
Yeah, if we did a digital event for 3 hours, you'd have to build in a lot of fun. That's long. But for a person event, in-person event, not digital. For digital, oh my gosh, you could have so much fun even in 60 minutes. You could do random trivia in between sections with like giving out prizes in the chat or first person to find a roll of toilet paper, hold it up, stuff like that. Another thing I love doing, or we love doing, is using the website Mentimeter, MENTI meter.com, where you can poll the audience. You can get questions, you can just see how they're feeling, or you can just do it with random fun trivia questions as well. Great website like that. So yeah, as you know, I like to have fun in events, so I got plenty of ideas. We can go on forever.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. Well, so say you're going to do a digital event. We want to add some fun. What are some other best practices that you would do in doing a initial leader training as an event, either digital or in person?
Yeah. Okay. Great idea. So the first thing you need to do for best practices is come up with a game plan. I know it's easy to just be like, we got to have an event. We're going to show some videos, but make sure you determine how long is it going to be? Like you said, Tracy, maybe more like 60 minutes digital, 3 hours. Try to get people there is going to be tough. I usually go for 2 to 3 hours for an in-person event if it's a full training event. Lately, we haven't been doing that. It's been more like an hour and a half, even in person. Then think about when do you want to do it? What night of the week? What time? Ask some of your leaders. Maybe they might have an idea of better ideas. We've been actually doing trainings on Sunday mornings still because people are more likely to come to a digital training now more than ever. Then come up with a schedule. You got to have a schedule of what you want to say and when you want to say it, and time it out. Think about giveaways and things like that. Usually for me, every 30 minutes needs to be some kind of interactive part or a giveaway just so that people stay engaged. Because I don't know about y'all, but watching a 30-minute video and not having any part of it, there goes my squirrel, right? ADD kicks in easily. And then last but not least, determine how you want to do it. Do you want to do it, like I said, webinar style, video call where you can see everybody? Or there's a feature in Zoom that I really like. You can put people into breakout rooms. So if you have different environments or different teams, they can come to a large group training and then put them in different breakout rooms to have the conversations based on how you want to train them specifically. If you do decide to do it in person, you got to have snacks. Please make sure you have snacks. Nuts, chocolate, granola bars, bacon. Got to have bacon. Make sure there's bacon there. Those are just some quick different things that you can do for best practices. Oh, sorry. One thing I missed. If you want to show videos during it, that's great. If you want to show a lot of videos during a training event, something I might caution you about is send 1 or 2 out ahead of time or afterwards so that you're not overloading them with things that people might be saying, if you just show me a bunch of videos, I could watch that at home or I can watch it on my own time. So that's what we try and do to really keep people engaged.
Okay, that's awesome. So a couple of key takeaways that I heard from in there of one, not too many videos, and you can kind of break that up of either before, during, or after. And then also kind of your rule of thumb of like every 30 minutes have at least some, discussion or engagement of some sort for everybody that's participating. Did I kind of get that right?
Yeah, that's the quick hits. Absolutely, because you want to keep people engaged because people are watching less and less videos. So if you're doing digitally, you got to keep them engaged by either giving them something or making them talk.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And honestly, that's one reason that goes into why we created the regroup videos the way we did, because most of them are under 10 minutes or so. There's a couple that are a little bit longer, but most of them are between that 5 and 10 minute range because of kind of attention spans and because of wanting people to process it. That's why we put questions with each and every video that we have. So just to kind of get a little background of our rationale or our thinking in some of that. So Raul, thanks for kind of sharing about the initial leader training. Cliff, could you share with us, like, what if I was like, hey, that's awesome, but I really want to do some additional training, maybe some theological training or some of that second level training for my leaders. What would you recommend?
Yeah, all of that kind of material is, sorry guys. There we go. All of that material is included as well in the conference. And so we usually think about our leader development over time through this grid of what we want leaders to know. And that's kind of the theological knowledge, the things that you just described, what we want leaders to do. That's the skills side of things for us. And then what we want leaders to, who we want them to be as people. So that's really who they really believe they are as a member of the body of Christ. And so that's how all the training's broken out in the platform as well. And so you could dive into things like biblical and theological things such as how to read the Bible, or we've got a whole series that takes you through the entire story of the Bible. I know that's a big thing for us at our churches, is trying to get everybody to see kind of like, okay, the Bible is so big and it's so ginormous. How do I actually understand how to read this? Well, understanding the story arc of the Bible and being able to take someone all the way through it provides people incredible perspective into that. We also have videos on how to share the gospel. What is the gospel and how do we share it effectively in our culture in our day and time? And actually, Raul is the one doing those videos, so that's pretty cool. And then we also think through things such as core versus periphery. What are the important things that we believe about our faith, and what are the maybe things that they're important, but maybe we shouldn't hold on to them so tightly as some of the other things in our faith? And then how do we navigate those conversations with our groups? And we'll also talk about things like asking great questions. What is really the anatomy of a great question? What's a good question, and maybe what's not such a good question? Just many different things like that to help people not only with their knowledge, but with their skills as well.
Okay, that's awesome. So there's a lot of content, obviously, that you can use to train your leaders. So what is, as a church staff member, or, maybe for my lead pastor or my coaches and that kind of a thing, Cliff, what is some of the content that would be helpful for them?
Yeah, so for us as staff members, right, we're constantly trying to figure out like how do we actually care for our groups? And what do we do when there's something that goes on in the group that is maybe, we'll just say it's a little bit beyond the grasp of the group. So how do you care for some of the more intense things in groups, such as addiction issues or affairs or just the other things that we know that we encounter in life? And so we've got a whole series of videos on that. We've also got series of videos on recruiting leaders. If you've ever figured out how to get enough leaders, please let us know and share that with the entire planet. But like everyone else, we don't always have as many leaders as we'd like, but we're constantly working on new ways and new thoughts about how we can recruit more, better leaders. And so we've got a whole series of videos about that. Then even for our lead pastors, we've got videos on how to vision cast about groups from the stage, but also to your staff and to people that you want to be in groups. And then also in how do you vision cast from the stage about leadership in groups. And so we kind of take a lot of different angles into the material to help all of the different kind of people that are on our staffs as well.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I know one of the ones from the lead pastor that one of our partner lead pastors did was on championing groups as the lead pastor. So this idea of his role as a lead pastor, how could he be the champion for groups in his church? And I know as group staff, we're all like, yes, please. Like, how do we, that's what we want, right? So anyway, lots of great content out there. And there's also children's and students content because we do encourage small groups for all ages, not just adults. So we've got student and children's content as well. Okay, so we've talked all about the content. Now let's kind of switch to how do I even participate in Regroup? And so Cliff, can you share a little bit about that process?
Yeah, all this material should be out on the website too, and we'll put it in the chat. But so what does this look like? So each person who views this content, we would like to be a registered user in the system. And so you can go out to regroup.org to purchase tickets, multi-tickets. So if you want to purchase a bunch of tickets through one transaction, you can do that on the website, and you'll be able to do that until July 7th. So you'll be able to buy many tickets with one transaction up until July 7th. And then up until July 11th, you will still be able to purchase individual tickets for that entire 30-day access period of Regroup. Again, that's up until July 11th. And if you've got any questions about that, if you're trying to figure out how do I host a training or how do I register, we'd be more than happy to help you out. You can send an email to regroupconference@northpoint.org. So again, regroupconference@northpoint.org, and we'll help you with specific questions about how do I get registered or how do I register my groups or teams.
Okay, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And one thing that I've really loved hearing from churches is that a lot of churches are having their leaders register themselves versus the church paying. So it's almost like, hey, asking your leaders to have some skin in the game for their own development and letting the leaders register. So I think that has been really cool too. So it's not just the financial responsibility on the church, but the leaders are actually buying into their own development, because a lot of the content on there won't just help them in their group leadership. It can help them in their workplace and their family, and it just goes beyond what happens in group. And so that's just one thing that we've heard and has been fun to kind of learn about. Well, as we've kind of looked at, okay, what is the platform, kind of the regroup.com, or the .org, or the platform going to look like? Sorry, got a little tongue-tied there. We've looked at that. We've shown you a video. Raul has talked through what a training could look like, and we've talked through the ticket process. So kind of putting all those details aside, let's just kind of go back to a minute of like, what is it that we hope people to experience from Regroup? So Raul, I would love just to hear from you on what do you want people to experience from Regroup? What's your hope for them?
Man, I'm excited about Regroup because it has the potential to really help churches, and not even just churches, church staff and church leaders and group leaders really experience the thriving life Jesus talks about in John 10:10, because it'll make you feel confident to lead and to train people. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm always looking for better ways to train my people and to feel confident in my own leadership. And so I am so excited because this has the potential to do that, and you get to make it your own. So you get to tailor what people experience based on what you need.
That's awesome. Cliff, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I love what Raul just said as well. I would imagine that for all of us that are on this webinar, we probably all know the impact that that community has made in our lives. And part of the thing that I would love for people to be able to take out of this conference is to almost be either inspired or re-inspired of why this is so important. And I think even in this season that we've kind of gone through with COVID and all that's going on, I think we've seen just how more and more important community is to the culture of our churches and how we help people grow and grow closer to Christ. And so I would love for them to just be re-inspired by that. Then also I would love for them to feel even more and more equipped. This is a job that it kind of never ends, and you feel like you can never learn enough, and there's always something kind of new around the corner. But if we can close that gap a little bit, and maybe, like I said, maybe our answer isn't your answer, and that's fine. We don't have the one right answer at all, but maybe it helps you think a little bit more about maybe what could be your answer to a specific question or problem. And if you can go a little further because of what you hear, what you listen to, or what your volunteers get out of this, then that's really our hope in all of this for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing that. And yeah, like you said, I mean, we want for people to connect relationally so they can grow spiritually. And I mean, it's all about following Jesus. And I know that's just our heart's desire. So thanks you guys so much for being here with us today. And for those watching this webinar, we really appreciate you joining us. And if you have any questions, please go to regroup.org and you can check out all the information there. And like I said, this was just a small tidbit of what Regroup Conference is going to be, and it's going to be so much more. And we just cannot wait for it to get kicked off on July 13th. So thanks for joining us today. Bye-bye.